What's up? I'm Big Bob.
All right, Big Bob, what's up?
Well, what's up, Ed? How you doing today? This is a first for us. I have never interviewed the best of the best of the best of anything before, but today we're interviewing the best of the best of the best at what he does. But before I introduce Ed Royth, I gotta give a shout out to Brenda Ringwood, our executive producer, and the founder of Becoming the Better You Foundation. Thank you, Brenda. Ed, you are the best of the best of the best.
I don't know about the best of the best, but I've done well.
No, the best of the best of the best. There's three best.
Oh, there's three. Okay, I'll buy that.
What are you the best of?
Barbecue.
Barbecue in Kansas City.
Real barbecue, Kansas City style barbecue.
All right. That's a great segue. So you have traditional barbecues that come from Carolinas, that come from Texas, that come from Kansas City, St. Louis. There's probably some other centers of barbecue, right?
Oh, you got Texas down there.
I think I said Texas.
Did you say Texas?
Yeah.
Because they always have to be announced,
Right. So what is the difference in styles? Because it's still a brisket, right?
Yes, it is. But you see, the difference in the locations is basically if you're talking to the South, they like to cook whole hog, they like to cook pork.
Right.
That's their favorite. In fact, the Kansas City Society, in their travels and actually having classes as well as competition in these areas, have become to introduce these folks to what brisket really is,
Yeah.
because brisket is the basis of barbecue.
All right.
It was introduced to barbecue as the toughest piece of meat to cook, and if you could cook it properly in a smoker, you've had a great accomplishment.
Well, what most people, I mean, it's the same piece. The brisket is the same piece of meat as a corned beef
Oh yeah,
or pastrami,
that's right.
but it's how it's prepared.
Exactly.
How's it prepared?
Well, brisket is actually compared by itself only with seasoning and heat and smoke. Time and temperature is the most important factor when you're cooking anything in barbecue.
All right, let's talk about time and temperatures.
All right. The basic time that most cooks, when I was really in competition, 2 1/4 was basically the maximum heat to cook a brisket at.
Okay.
And depending on the size, you could figure 16 to 19 hours to cook that brisket.
Okay.
And today, the cooks are using a higher temperature, cooking faster, but they're using a different type of meat too. They're using this real special grade of beef that's produced. The origination was a Japanese style.
Oh, well, I got to backtrack. We started way too fast.
Okay.
Ed, where are you from?
Originally, I was born in Long Island, New York.
No
And
way. Really?
yes, and my dad was on Wall Street when we had the crash. I'm not young. I'm older than I look.
Well, how old are you?
I'll be 95 in January.
95.
In January, yeah.
Look at that head of hair. He's got a head of hair like a 30-year-old.
And
Gorgeous.
And he
So-
walked in here.
Oh, yeah. He drove himself. He drove himself to the office and he walked in. 95 years old.
that's right.
Give me something.
You got
Wow.
it.
I'm impressed.
So
95.
yeah, I lived in New England, New Hampshire for a while. Is where my mother was from. After my dad lost everything in New York, we moved up there. And eventually, to make a long story short, I ended up in the military. And
Thank you for your service.
thank you. I gave them 10 years and I moved down to, when I got into Florida, went to training down there and went to work and got transferred to Kansas City
What year?
in 1958.
1958. I'm an old man. I was 6, 7 years old when he moved here. Right? And I'm an old man.
Wow. You're not old.
Yeah, yeah.
It's all in
It's
the mind.
right. It's 95 years old.
In
God
January.
bless you. Well, we're going to talk about longevity afterwards. But okay, how did you get into barbecue?
Well, when I was in the military, down south, I was stationed in Mobile, Alabama quite a bit, and they were doing a lot of cooking down there. So I ran into a few barbecues, and I came back. When I got in Kansas City, I decided I've heard so much about barbecue, I think I'll try it myself. So to make a long story short, I used to cook a little at home. And then one day, a friend of mine that was in the competition in Lenexa said, I've got trouble with such and so. He told me what it was at that time. And he says, could you come and help me? Because he knew I did a lot of cooking at home. So I said, yeah, I'll come out. So I made him change something on invitation on his uh, process of presenting it, and I changed it all around for him. That particular item gave him the winner of Lenexa overall because it gave him enough points. And I said to my wife, I said, and she didn't like the outside, but I said, you know what? You're going to have to try something. What's that? I said, you're going to have to live outside for a while. I says, because I'm going to enter the barbecue society's cooking. I said, I said, it sold me when I was with him. And if I can help him win by just changing one item,
You might be able to win the whole thing yourself.
I did eventually.
Yeah. So how many awards have you won? You must have won
Oh
a
my
lot of
God.
awards.
I figured basically, the basic awards in competition, 360. But there's folks that have won many more. They've competed more than I have. And I was working and competing at the same time.
Okay.
And I've competed in Texas, in New Hampshire, in the Carolinas, in Florida, Illinois, in the West. I've taught all over the country.
So do you have to have special equipment?
Your equipment, yes. You got to have a smoker.
Okay.
And now a smoker is anything that you can enclose with a wood fire that will give you plenty of heat and control over the temperature for a period of time. That's the way I
wood
look
or
at it.
charcoal?
Most time it's 99% wood. Sometimes it's charcoal to get the fire going.
What kind of wood?
Everybody has their favorites. You go to Texas, it's mesquite. You come to Kansas City, it's either white oak or hickory. We use sweet wood here too, like cherry. Down south, they use a pretty much mixture of what we use, and white oak and hickory a lot down there. And I would say just about everywhere we got, that's pretty much the wood that's used.
All right.
Now, somebody may come up with something fancy. A lot of times they'll burn when they're doing a rib or something. They may burn a few grapevines in there for some reason. They have their own feeling of what they want to make the product come out.
Everybody feel they're special.
That's right.
So, what is Caroline barbecue like?
It's more vinegar base and mustard base,
All right. And Texas is more
like
pork.
we have.
Right, but pork, they don't do beef as much.
Oh yeah, they do. Texas briskets, they're a big thing,
All right.
but they use a lot of mesquite down there too.
And does that change the flavor?
Yes, it does somewhat, and it's a hotter cooking piece of wood. It burns much hotter than.
So when you're cooking a brisket, are you looking for the juicy piece of meat? Is that how the more juice that is retained in the meat?
The secret to cooking a brisket is when it's done, it's juicy.
Write that down.
So, and the way you do it, number one, you have to leave a certain amount of fat
Right.
on the brisket. You don't leave as much as come with it, but you take off. I used to leave about a 1/4 inch of fat across the top. And then I would punctuate the fat with my seasoning and also punctuate the meat product on the other side with as well. And I do that with a fork, And my way of seasoning was I always used a little olive oil first, just to skim to get the seasoning to stay to it. Sometimes I might add a lot of pepper and salt to it. Sometimes I use just my own seasoning, which I developed and used to be on the market until I sold the product. Uh, and I had tremendous luck with it that way. And then what I would do, I'd put it in the smoker at about 225, and I'd give it maybe an hour or so, and I'd check and I'd spray it with apple juice. Keep it moist. You don't want to wet it down and wash off all your seasoning, but you want to keep it moist because brisket will dry if you're not. So that was the procedure through the anywhere from 16 to 18, 19 hours, depending on the size of the brisket.
Wait, you'd be cooking this for 16 hours?
Oh, yeah. What I used to do in competition, I had a custom made unit, and I would start the fire, say about 6 o'clock at night. And I'd have to get the unit burning well and getting it to the temperature I wanted to. And then probably about 9 o'clock at night, 9:30, I'd put the briskets on. And I'd use a pretty good sized brisket, 14 to 15 pounds, sometimes more. So that wouldn't have a lot to do with the time. They're a big piece of meat, yeah.
Right.
And that's with the point and the flat. There's two pieces to that brisket, but it's all tied together. And I would smoke them until about, I had a way of checking them, but I'd smoke them till about, maybe 6:30 in the morning. I know,
9 hours, 10 hours.
oh, no, more than that. If I put in 8 o'clock at night, we're talking 10 hours by 6. Many times it was 15 hours. It was 9,
Right.
10 in the morning, depending on the size that I would take out. Then I would take it out and wrap it in foil, heavy duty foil.
Keep the juice in.
You got to keep it juicy. And then I would put it in just a cooler of any time, and I would never close the lid tight. I'd leave the lid open a couple inches so it cools down real slow but maintains its temperature.
You're a professional.
Yeah. Well, and then what I would do, a lot of people go by temperature. When I cooked ribs and I cooked brisket, I go by feel.
Uh-huh.
I use the regular chef's type thermometer, and I would probe. I could tell the way that reacted in the meat,
Right.
whether it was where I wanted it or not. And if it wasn't, it stayed there. And when it was, especially ribs, the ribs, you have to be at a certain point because you go too far, they're overcooked. You don't go far enough, they're undercooked.
So everybody has different preferences.
Oh, yeah.
I like my ribs rubbed without the sauce.
Oh, yes, there's a lot of people like them that way. In fact, the Memphis area, they either use them that way. There's a restaurant down there, and they put a dry rub on them after they're cooked. So if you can eat them plain or have them with the dry rub.
All right.
Yeah.
But a lot of people here, I've always thought what makes Kansas City barbecue the most unique is everybody has their own sauce.
Right.
And it's the sauce that separates all the different barbecue joints here in town.
I don't buy that.
Okay, you tell me. You're the expert.
Well, no. To me, sauce is like frosting on a cake. You're doing something to influence that piece of cake, make it taste sweeter, make it taste better. To me, a good cooked piece of meat doesn't need sauce.
I agree.
Sauce is an addition.
I don't put A1 on top of my steak.
I don't either.
Right.
I want to taste that steak.
Right.
Yes.
Right. You cook steaks too?
Oh yeah, I'm a self-taught chef.
All right.
Yeah.
But there's so many things I want to talk to you about. Are any of the restaurants here in town cooking good barbecue?
Oh yeah, there's several.
Who?
I don't want to name any.
I want names. Come on.
Well, Q39 is good. Jack Stack's good. I have a feeling about each one, but that's my opinion. Then you go over on the east side, there's some old barbecues down there. Those guys know how to cook.
Yeah.
And, if you want some real original Kansas City barbecue, you go down on Brooklyn.
Arthur Bryant's.
Arthur Bryant's.
Right. I have some, when I bring people into town, I used to always take them down to Arthur Bryant's.
Oh, yeah.
And I'd say, look, this is a hole in the wall. It's just average Kansas City barbecue, but it's the ambiance that we're going to pay you homage to. And they sit there and they eat, and they said, this is the average. My God, Kansas City must have some fantastic barbecue, as if this is just the average.
Yeah, no, they have good barbecue. Uh, Sometimes you get something that they've never cooked before as far as quality, and man, it just melts in your mouth. And other times it's a regular cook. You never get anything bad there.
Right.
No, I've never got anything bad there. And I know people that I visit me from out of town sometimes. You got to take us to Arthur Bryant's. We've heard about Arthur Bryant's. I said, gladly, I'll take you there. I go there myself once in a
You're
while.
paying up.
Right.
Joe's.
Joe's is good.
Joe's is supposed to be the number one in all America, and I don't think they're the best in Kansas City.
Well, Joe is, that's Jeff Staney that owns that.
Right.
He's a personal friend of mine. We used to compete together.
Right.
I think he has something, as far as I'm concerned, that nobody else has, and that's the Carolina pulled pork sandwich. The way he seasons his spices and the what he puts it together
Right.
with, I don't think you can beat it.
Who has the best burnt ends?
That's a
For
question.
me,
That's
for me,
a
burnt
question.
ends is I go to a barbecue joint. You know, you go to Italian restaurants. It's about the quality of the bread,
Right.
and the gravy, right?
Right,
I mean, that's how you evaluate
You're
an
talking
Italian
my
restaurant.
line Italian
Right.
now.
Okay, but right, the gravy and the bread,
Oh, yeah.
that's how you evaluate. When you go to a barbecue place, it's all about the burnt ends.
That's right. If you order a burnt end sandwich, I'll tell you, I won't name any, but I've been so disappointed in some.
I know what you're gonna say.
And I went to one recently that I heard was so good that I had never tried it. So I went in and ordered a burnt end sandwich. Let me tell you, the sandwich came out, the burnt ends were that thick and about that square. Yeah, you couldn't complain about what they gave you. They had no taste.
So tell all our listeners, because I think I know the answer, the history of how burnt ends came about.
You know, I'm not sure how it came about, but it is the best part of the brisket.
What I always heard was, back in the beginning of time, people were just making brisket sandwiches.
Right.
That's all the brisket was for, sandwiches.
Absolutely.
So they cut off the excess fat and they throw that shit away. And somebody says, let me have that stuff you're throwing away. And enough people were asking for this stuff that was being thrown away that the merchant said, well, maybe this has some value. So they started selling the burnt ends. And that's how I understood.
Is that how you found out?
That's how I think it started.
You know, I ran into learning about burnt ends through the barbecue business, through cooking. I recognized myself what that piece of meat was. And that's what's called the flat of the brisket.
Right.
And
That's what
the
the
reason,
flavor is.
right, and the reason it is so good, it has a load of fat built into it,
Right.
not just what you see on the surface.
Right.
And that's why when it's cooked properly, you get into the moisture, the flavor. It's so good.
But Ed, you know what some of these retailers are doing, the restaurants are doing, because there's such a huge demand.
I know what you're going to say.
That's what I thought you were going to say. There's
No.
such a huge demand for burnt ends. They're taking the brisket and just
They're
cubing
cutting
it
all
up,
around to say, cubing it up,
right,
and
say-
calling it burnt
and
end.
calling it burnt ends.
Yep,
That's not a burnt
it
end.
is not a burnt end.
No.
A burnt end is off the flat of the brisket.
What they were thrown away 50 years ago.
They may see. I wasn't around here then, and that's probably what was being done. But I'll tell you what, I'll go anywhere. I want burnt ends. I'd say
When
mine too.
When you get steak, what kind of steak do you get?
I usually buy tenderloin, and I buy prime. Actually, prime.
I'm a ribeye guy.
I'm not a ribeye steak, and most of my family is, and most people are. I like a good New York strip if I'm going to go to a store.
Ed, Here they call it Kansas City.
Well, yeah,
Well, come on.
same thing.
It's the exact same piece of meat.
Same piece of
Same
meat.
piece of meat, but here we're in Kansas City, we
Right,
call it
that's
Kansas
right.
City strip.
Now, another thing about steak too, and there was a place here in Kansas City, he sold out his market, but he used to have an aging booth too. And a good, if you wanted to have the most tender pieces steak cooked, like they do sometimes the restaurants in New York, they charge so much, they're all aged and they have mold on them before they serve them and cut it off. That's a good aged piece of meat. It just melts in your mouth. You know, if somebody looked at it, they probably wouldn't touch it. But if they got it served and didn't know that, it's the best piece of steak I've ever eaten.
So you can barbecue almost anything.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
They're barbecuing sausage and they're barbecuing chickens and they're barbecuing everything. It's not just a little piece of pork here and a brisket there.
No, but I'd just like to clarify one thing
Yes,
about
sir.
barbecue.
Yeah.
The average person talking about barbecue, they got a grill, they got a charcoal fire, they got a little wood fire outside, and they're putting hot dogs, they're putting ribs on it. So the true barbecue is smoked.
Yeah. See, I can't agree with you more. My buddies in New York saying, yeah, we're going to go out and barbecue this weekend.
Oh,
I
yeah.
said, no, you're not. You're grilling. He goes,
That's it.
what do you mean? I said, you're going to take a hamburger, you're putting it on a grill. That's grilling.
That's
If
right.
you're going to barbecue, you got to pull down the smoker, build up the
Right.
boom. It takes forever to smoke.
It takes time.
It doesn't take 7 minutes to cook a hot dog or hamburger and call it barbecue.
No, you're absolutely right. And you know, when I was traveling and cooking a barbecue competition too, but I traveled in my work, a lot of folks would, you know, when you're on an airplane, they'd say, well, what do you do for a living? And I tell them, and well, anything you do exciting, you a fisherman or hunter or something? I said, oh, I'm a barbecue. A barbecue? Oh, we barbecue all the time. I said, yeah,
No, you
but not
don't.
Kansas City barbecue. I said, or true barbecue anywhere in the United States, not just Kansas City, but anybody that says they really do true barbecue, they're smoking it, it's taking time, it's preparation.
I got a barbecue story that you're not going to agree with, but I'm going to tell it to you anyways. It's my show. I get to tell the stories. By the way, does anybody notice that I've shaved?
Yeah, I did.
It's no shave November.
No shave November. So I did just the opposite. Anyways, I invited a buddy of mine to go to a football game.
Okay.
He says, before we go to the football game, let's tailgate with my buddy who has a tent and barbecue out there. I said, all right, fine. So we go out to this guy's pregame tailgate, and he gives me a plate of food. And on the plate of food is one pork tenderloin, two bites of salmon, a rib, and a burnt end, and maybe a slice of brisket. I take the burnt end first, and I go, man, this is the best burnt end I've ever had. Take a bite of the salmon. I said, this salmon is spectacular. All the meat fell off the rib with one bite, and it was the taste. I said, where's your restaurant? He says, I don't have a restaurant. I said, well, cater. You must be doing catering. He says, I don't do any catering. I said, this is the best barbecue I've ever had in my life. Would you cater a party for me? He says, Big Bob, we just met, but I'd be glad to. I said, great. It's going to be in December. He said, no problem. I said, it's for about 150 people. And he's cooking off of 2 grills. He's cooking off of Weber's. He's making all
I
this
know what
off
the
Weber.
Weber is, yeah.
Right. He's cooking off Weber's, and he's making this food that's absolutely spectacular. I said, it's 150 people. He goes, I've never cooked for more than 25, 30, but okay. I said, it's in Dalton, Georgia. He said, done. He drove 1,500 miles with 2 Webers in his back seat and cooked for 150 people off of 2 Webers. And the barbecue was better than any restaurant here in town.
You sure he cooked it on the Webers?
I watched him.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I helped him.
Did he smoke on the Webers or just open fire?
No. You smoked him.
Oh, well, that's all right.
Right. I mean, he smoked him, he cooked it, he finished it off with the open fire. But yeah.
You know how I started? I used myself, I had a charbroil at home.
Right.
You know what a charbroil is?
I think so.
It's a closed unit, you can, but it's a charcoal cooker. You
Right.
can grill or you can smoke with it. So I used it to smoke with, and I was doing great with it. I got a hold of the charbroil people. They sent me a free one, so I was cooking my first year or two with 2 charbroils. And I was wondering with those too.
Well,
Let's do it, but I was
a shout
smoking
out,
with them.
a shout out to Mark Tobin, who I think is the best barbecue guy I've ever met in my life until I met Ed.
Oh,
Ed's got trophies. Ed's got ribbons. Ed's, how many, you said you've won awards in how many states?
well, here's something I like to classify because I became part of it. When I first started, each state championship was one per state,
Okay.
and it was ordered by the governor. I won Illinois 3 times as a state champion. I won Nebraska 3 times. I won Missouri once. I won Tennessee. I won Oklahoma, and
You never won Texas.
I beat the Texas. I went to I won the American Royal.
Everybody in Kansas City knows all about the American Royal.
Okay, you have 4 or 5 categories you
Right.
cook. Well, at that the time I cooked it last was the winner of the barbecue, the brisket contest and the American Royal, and you're competing around 450 cookers.
Wow.
And I won brisket. That entitled me to go to Talingua, Texas, to compete against the top Texas brisket cooker.
Right.
Supposedly we tied.
He got a home field. He got a home field advantage there, didn't he?
But you know, that guy to this day is a good friend of mine. He's an excellent brisket cooker.
Hey, he's almost as good as you.
Now he's probably, he's still cooking out there. He's a good guy and a good cook.
So you've been a judge.
I wrote the judging program for the Kansas City Barbecue Society, and which they are using today. And if you watch TV shows and they're talking about judging, they use the method that I wrote.
Give me an education of how to judge.
We have 3 factors that you,
the quick one. I don't want the 200.
no, I'll give it a quick. There's 3 factors in judging.
Okay.
One is appearance. Now, when you look at the appearance, how is the meat presented? Does it look like they really took time with it? Does it look presented right? If there's a product where it has to be cut, you can see the grain. Is it cut right? The next time is taste. Taste is a factor that everybody has their own taste, but we point out you got to be fair. If it's a good taste, it may not be your favorite, but it's something you found out you like, score it accordingly.
Right. Oh,
Tenderness is the last factor. So you got appearance, taste, and tenderness. That's the factors they judge
Is
competition.
it 1 through
by.
10?
No, it's 1 through 9.
No such thing as a 10.
Now,
No such thing as a 10.
you can have all 9s, but you can't have all 10s. There's no 10.
No such thing as perfect. So, how many all 9s have you had?
I've had my share,
Right.
and there's others that have had their share too. I did well, but there's other good cooks out there
Of course,
too.
very, very modest. So, besides brisket, what other?
Ribs was my next big cook, and then pork.
Okay.
Chicken was my least, the lowest scoring item I ever had in competition.
Why?
I won with it on an occasion, but I never planned to do much with chicken. I don't know why. I didn't have the touch to it.
Okay. All right. Do you barbecue fish?
I've done fish, yes, yeah, but I've done fish, yes, a smoke. I've done salmon, and I've done trout,
All
and
right.
I like some of the commercial fish you buy in the supermarkets today, and I have cooked them and smoked them,
Do
and
you still cook?
I cook for myself. Yes,
How do you barbecue for one person?
I don't anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, you know what? My son, I gave 2 of my pieces of equipment too that I think are one of the best, and one is a green egg.
Okay.
I gave him that. It does a brisket like nothing else does a
The
brisket.
green egg is what you like best.
For the brisket, yes. Yeah, Okay, you never get a failure with the green egg. And I've won many with the green egg, but I had a commercial cooker that was built that has a rotisserie in it and has a via box in the bottom. And that's what I used to cook with. It was big enough I could do 32 slabs of ribs at one time.
You open up a restaurant. Why did
No,
you?
my son had one, and I used to do the ribs for the restaurant.
Where was the restaurant?
Up north, called Papa Nick's. He bought Papa Nick's. It was running. They had that open up in North Kansas City.
Restaurant, tough business.
It is, people don't realize what it is.
Right,
And so many people that win barbecue got to open up a restaurant.
right.
Some make it, some don't.
Yeah, I've known a lot who don't.
Yeah, there's a couple here in town. Well, Joe, he was I know how Joe got started. It's very interesting.
Yeah, he bought a franchise, but
No, he didn't. Here's the story I got from him. There's a gas station, which you've heard.
right, I've
on
been there.
39th Street.
I've been there.
All right, that gas station used to have a little sandwich shop or something in it, and they'd closed it up. Joe, the story I understand from Joe, and I stand corrected if he hears this and says I wasn't quite right, but he was doing catering, because he loved to cook barbecue, even when he was working. So he found this place in order to do his catering with.
Right.
People come in to get gas or whatever, they smell this barbecue. That's how he got started.
Have you ever been up to Hayward's right here?
Oh, yeah.
He has some good burnt ends.
You know what? That used to be, I was up there when it was under another ownership.
There've been 14 restaurants up there for
Is
the
that
last
right?
20 years, but this one's lasted the longest.
I haven't been in there then, yeah.
Right. Hayward had a place out in Overland Park. I think he sold
Got
it.
two now.
Yeah, and he sold it. He retired. My favorite story about Hayward was supposedly he built himself an 8,000 square foot house.
Oh, yes, and I remember that down south, the south in Johnson
One,
County.
one bedroom.
Only one bedroom?
And I asked him, why one bedroom? And he says, I don't want my kids moving back in.
I saw the house too.
Yeah.
Sits up on
Yeah, beautiful.
by himself. Yeah.
Um,
I met him one time.
yeah,
Yeah.
nice man. How often do you go out eating barbecue now?
It depends. I went out the other day. I decided to have some, and I wasn't exactly pleased, but I'm not saying where I went. So, and I tried another one somewhere. The one I told you, the burnt ends was so thick.
Yeah.
I said, man,
No
that's
flavor.
something. Had no smoke flavor whatsoever. And I said, I'll never be back to this place.
Yeah, I like 39 too. 39's a good place.
Oh, that's 30.
Jack Stack is, I
I've eaten
love
at
their,
Jack Stack a few times in Overland Park.
I love that Fred Flintstone beef rib.
I've seen their beef. I've never had one because I like
Oh,
the pork ribs
Right.
myself.
Their beef rib is and they also do lamb ribs.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, but their beef rib is a meal and a half. It's
Is that right?
yeah, it's a
They're big ribs.
yeah. Have not mentioned the granddaddy, most successful barbecue guy here in town. Do you think his food is just average?
I'm trying to think who you're talking about.
Ollie.
I prefer the other one.
Right. Gates is he is outside of Kansas City. He's probably the most famous barbecue guy.
Right.
I mean, he's,
Um,
may I help you?
I hate that. I hate that. When you walk in and the first thing they say is, "Can I help you?" When I first went to them the first time, and the gal says, "Can I help you?" I says, "I haven't even got to your county yet. Just give me a chance to see what you
Let
got."
me look at the menu.
Yeah, right. And the menu was up there, but because it surprised me that they said that, I said, "Who in the hell?" Excuse my French. Who actually
No,
hits you when you're coming in the door?
You can use French here all you want.
Okay. C'est très bien.
Right.
Anyway, no,
French toast.
yeah, French toast. Yes, I eat that once in a while too. But no, I am not a fan. If you mention names. Gates is not my barbecue.
No.
I have a son. He's a chef. Lives in Florida, works down there. But when he's in town, he likes Gates, and I go to Gates with him, and I just go to Gates with him.
Look, it's not bad. It's not that it's bad barbecue.
It's not.
It's just not outstanding, and there's some outstanding options here in
That's
town.
the big thing. It's good barbecue, but there's other barbecue.
Well, wait a second. Brenda, was that your telephone?
No, it was my other thing,
What other thing?
my other thing. I
Oh,
hit a button. It
she has
wasn't the
she has
phone.
another thing.
Oh, does she?
It was on this, yes.
All right. 95 years old.
I will be in January 13th.
Okay. Is there a secret? Is it just genes and luck?
You know, I don't know. I lost my dad when he was 48. My two sisters I lost one in their 40s, the other one in her 60s. I think I lost my mother in my 80s. I don't know if anybody in our family that I can recall has lived as long as I have, knock on wood.
So I'm 73. I'll be 75 next year. But I'm scared of living as long as you have. The quality of life, the getting up and taking a whiz without it being a major chore, right? Just the simple things that we take for granted when we're young and healthy become, right?
You know, you have a point to it, but I think that's been the secret to my existence. I don't let anything slow me down. I have been tremendously active all my life. Up until 7, 8 years ago, I was at the gym every day, and then I cut down to three times a week, and I found out it didn't make any difference. And I've done that for years, and I don't like to sit around and do nothing. I'll find something to do.
I'm doing stretching now.
I do that every night before I go to bed, and it helps the cramps.
And I'm saying stretching, flexibility is more important than the muscle mass and is more important than the cardio.
Oh, yeah.
Just to be able to bend down and function and pick
Be
something
able
off
to
the
pick
ground.
something else,
Right.
which I can still do.
You can still bend over and pick something
Yep.
off the ground.
Yep.
Do you have trouble getting out of chairs?
No, not basically, no.
How's your digestive system?
It's not bad at all. It doesn't give me any
How many
real.
prescriptions are you on?
How many what?
Prescriptions.
Basic prescriptions I'm on, I think 3 or maybe 4 at the most.
You still have a very, very active mind.
You know, that's what the doctors tell me.
We've been talking for a half hour, 45 minutes, and I haven't seen you lose a second of focus. Your humor's still right on top of it, right?
I try to be.
You make eye contact, fantastic. You're way ahead of Biden, and you're 15 years older.
I
Right.
never looked at it that way. You know, I had something, you're talking about that, and I don't usually bring it up, but I have had something happen just right up the street here at the doctor's office. First time I ever been to him, but I had my cardiologist is with KU, and he happens to be a KU doctor. And while he was up here on that street, he has an office there. But I had to see him. I had I have a defibrillator and a pacemaker, and they had to put an extra line into the heart because supposedly the chambers weren't in rhythm, and they thought an extra line would help it. So that has helped. But I went to see him for the first time. He's a specialist in that. We got talking, and this is God's honest truth, and I've never had a doctor say this. He said, you know what? If I didn't look at how old you were on your charts,
I'd put you down 78.
he said, I think you're in your 70s. And I said,
I'm looking at you right now, I'd say 78.
that's what most people take me at, in the
Right.
70s.
Yeah.
Yeah. But for a doctor to say that, I figured, what have I done? You know, I just act myself. I'm very active. I try to keep my personality alive
Do you get out much?
as much as I can.
Okay. You wrote a book on barbecue, right?
I did a 3 hour cooking video for 3 hours. It's a two-place video. It's a disc. It's of course it's out of circulation now because it was some years ago, but I sold over 8,000 of them. It was on TV
Wow.
and advertised. Yeah, it's starts from how you pick up a knife and what kind of knives you use and what the different knives are for, how to make a rub, how to use the product, how to do this, how to do that, how to tie butcher knots, everything in the basics, and it worked into cooking. And then I finished it.
I bet you Brenda would love to have one of those so she could take it home, give it to her husband, and say, "Here, sweetheart, start making some
Yeah,
good brisket."
You know, I don't know where you'd find one anymore, but I sold about 8,000 of them. It was on TV. I was on TV with it, with a national show,
Uh-huh.
and it helped the sale of that. That's true, but I also used a local man. I'm trying to think of it. No, this is bad. Now here's my memory kicking in. Oh, losing. Uh, he had his own store. His dad had one, a private butcher shop, and it's over on the state line side, just across
Yeah,
state line.
yeah, I know what
You
you're talking
know,
about. They sold out. They just recently,
sold out to another company.
yeah.
Right. Well,
What's
he
his
is.
name?
he
Starts
was-
with an M.
Yeah, yeah. God, I know it as well as I know my own. But anyway, he had a aging booth, and he aged meat, and he was good. And he also did barbecue, and I got to know him from the barbecue end of it. And so when I did this video, I asked him if he would play a part in it, if we could bring the crew over there. We did it on a Sunday, and he went into how to choose the meat and how to age beef. It's in that video, all by him and giving him the basis for it, you know. And God, what's his name? It's right on the tip of my tongue, and I can't
If he
think.
gave
of
me
it.
100 names, I'd pick it out.
Yeah, you probably would. Mike wasn't his first name. Yeah, his first name was Mike.
It's right there on Warnell and
That's
like
right.
Warnell and like 79.
That's it, exactly. Yes, and that's God.
You know, if I can't think of it right away, I don't want to stop and think.
No, well, and I've known it and can use it all the time. And right now I'm at a blank.
Are your kids here in town?
My oldest son is up north in Parkville, and my middle son, he's a physician here in town.
Congratulations.
Pardon?
Congratulations.
Thank you. And my younger son decided to go to Florida. He's a chef,
All right.
and he's had some good works and some routes. He worked very hard and took tests to be a chef on a cruise boat.
Vacation.
Well, where
It's
you go
vacation.
in and hire the boat for the
Right.
week
Ah,
and you go out, that's where he's the head chef on it.
grandchildren?
I have 3 great-grandchildren and a total of about 8 altogether, yeah.
Do you ever get it all together?
Not all of them. We used to, but
May I make
they all seem to go their own way.
May I make a suggestion? Because I'm thinking of doing this for my 75th birthday, right? Come on in. I'm going to send out invitations to all my friends and family. Come to my 75th birthday. A roast, a toast, a wake, whatever. Just have a nice party, and you're excused from coming to my funeral. You get a free pass. You don't have
That's good. I like
You
that.
don't have to come to my funeral if you'll come to my 75th birthday. I want to hug you. I don't want to be with my eyes closed flat on my back. I want to feel you. Tell your kids, I'm 95 years old. Get your butt up here. Give me a big, big party, right? You don't have to come see me again if you don't want to until I'm 100. But I want a 75th birthday party,
We
a
had
95th
we
birthday
had one
party.
at my 90th.
Well,
We
let's
did.
do,
We had people come in from all over.
do it again for 95, right?
I felt that I was lucky at 90.
Yeah. don't think I got a shot at making it to 90. I'm probably going to get shot in the back of the head by a jealous husband. But
Well, if that's the way to go,
oh, I can't think of a better way.
There you go.
Ed, you have been an absolute joy.
Well, thank you. I've enjoyed this too.
I'd love to take you out for some barbecue.
I'd love to do it.
When and where?
Well, you name the time when, we'll work into it, and you name the place that you want to go.
No, I want you to name the place. I want to sit back and you order me lunch. You order me the dinner. I'll buy, but I want to. We can share. You can have something off my plate, and I'll take something off your plate.
We'll work on
You
something
look like you
that.
haven't missed a lot of meals. We'll work on it.
No, I haven't. I've cut down lately, but I never missed any.
There you go, brother. Thank you very,
Hey,
very
my
much.
pleasure.
You have been an absolute joy.
Well, I'm glad.
Till next time, Big Bob, say goodbye to Ed and think of Ed every time you eat barbecue. Take, bro.
That's good.